I mean, there are a lot of movies and TV shows where I yell about how horrible the journalism is, but, it wasn't even worth it in this one.
We all know the truth. More connects us than separates us. But in times of crisis, the wise build bridges, while the foolish build barriers.
You raise walls, I destroy them. Let's see who prevails.
Just because something works doesn't mean that it cannot be improved.
I say we take off and nuke the entire site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Allow my sword to join you in the fight against evil.
The world needs us to chase dreams.
We have to dedicate ourselves each and every single day to this fight because I can't do it alone.
You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us all unite!
Welcome to Skippy and Fanny's Torture Cinema, a show about terrible movies selected by our Patreon people, so thanks guys.
Is good, huh? Is funny.
Oh, God.
It is not funny.
Well, that should tell you what this is gonna be like. I'm Sean.
I'm Alex.
I'm Trish.
And I'm Jen.
Today we're here to talk about a fucking movie called Transylvania 5000. Woo! Woo!
Yeah, I will note, guys, that it is not some kind of Transylvania 5,000 years in the future like I was hoping in my secret heart that it might be with that title. No, it's like a fucking stupid pun on Pennsylvania 5000.
It's not even a good
Which
pun.
was already done in a 1963 Merry Melodies cartoon, which was actually funny.
Oh, okay. So somebody had already done it better.
Yes.
Great. Thanks,
Jen,
Dow Chemicals. Thanks.
Anytime a movie we watch for this thing is referring to things that were before it, you just have to assume that somebody did it better before.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
Yeah. I mean, it's just basic logic.
All right. Shall we talk about what we're drinking?
I mean, I guess we could do that. That's probably an intelligent idea.
Fantastic.
So, I guess I'll start. I am drinking a holiday-friendly beer. I am drinking 2 Blue Moon Harvest Pumpkin Wheats for tonight because I wanted something that would fit the season that we happen to be in, which is pumpkin season. And so I want to put pumpkins inside me. So there you go. That's what I'm drinking.
Pumpkins are good.
Yeah. What about you, Alex?
I am not actually drinking any alcohol right now because my tummy is super duper upset due to a series of poor choices that I made, the last of which was drinking a cider while I watched this movie. So I'm just drinking some hot ginger tea in the hopes that I do not die.
Did this movie give you food poisoning?
It might have. I mean, we can only say there's a correlation and not necessarily a causative link, but I did watch this movie and then 6 hours later there was a lot of vomiting.
Oh.
Well, this film was partly funded by a chemical company, so
they could have poisoned you.
Mm-hmm. It's very possible.
And what about you, Trish?
I am drinking hot apple cider tea from the Republic of Tea's Herbs of Autumn collection. Because it's cold outside, it shouldn't be a high of 43 in North Carolina in mid-November, but here we are.
I'm sorry, I guess we sent some of our cold weather down. Because it warmed up here, so...
That big old polar vortex.
It hasn't really warmed up here, so I don't know.
Oh, but that's because I always send the cold straight to your heart, Jen.
I didn't need any extra, but thank you.
You're welcome. I know, because you're cold as ice. Yeah. Anyway, Jen, what about you? What are you drinking?
So I have to share, because first I was drinking a delicious homemade apple juice that I made today. Yay! It was nice and hot and warm. But now I'm drinking the most thematically appropriate beverage I think I have ever had on one of these episodes. And that is a brown ale with s'mores flavors from a local Rochester brewing company called Rohrbach Brewing Company. And it is called Marsh Monster.
But does it taste good?
That sounds delicious.
It is absolutely delicious. It is not only delicious, but I was like, marsh monster? How could I buy literally anything else if there's actually, and it has a hand sticking out of a marsh with a marshmallow stick. So
of course it does.
Yeah. So I was like, this is so perfect for this movie. I can't buy anything else. So yeah, I was very excited that I found something that thematically appropriate. And also, turns out, delicious.
Nice.
Well, fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that leads us now to what is the third most important thing on this show, which is having somebody tell us what this movie, Transylvania 65000, is about. And so I believe we've decided that, Jen, that is going to be your duty today. And so I will warn people that you have been fucking up all day today.
And I'm also terrible at summaries. So I've been told.
I know. So this is going to be almost as much of a disaster as the movie we're about to discuss. And so I just want to temper expectations. Go, Jen.
Look, my plot summary cannot be any worse than the actual plot of this film. And that's the plus to me doing the summary this evening.
I'll give you 3 points.
Okay, thank you. So this is Transylvania 65000, a 1985 film produced by the Dow Chemical Company in order to get their money out of Yugoslavia. Because capitalism.
Yay.
The plot is that Jeff Goldblum and Ed Begley Jr. are writers for a tabloid newspaper called The Sensation, and they are sent to Transylvania after the tabloid paper receives a video, a live recording, so to speak, of two men discovering Frankenstein, essentially. But there's no video of the face, it's just the figure's feet. And so Dad of Ed Begley is like, go and find me a story or you're fired. And so off they wing to Transylvania. And there, immediately, Jeff Goldblum meets a woman who is hot. And so he flirts with her for the rest of the movie. And he's also totally over this tabloid journalism shit because he wants to be a real reporter. It basically spends about 3/4 of the movie just ignoring everything that's going on, while Ed Begley actually does some research. There's shenanigans going on here. They see things. They find out about a wolfman from a fortune teller. And then a Dracula lady shows up, played by Gina Davis. And all sorts of other things. But basically, it's them in a castle and people making schemes behind their back. And also some really stupid... I've never thought I would say this because I love physical comedy, but really awful physical comedy leading up to an ending that actually has a decent twist and is, I think, the only decent part of the entire film. I'm not going to spoil what the twist is. You're just going to have to listen to the rest of the episode.
Well, and it's a twist ruined by the credits.
Yes,
very quickly.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I didn't say that the twist is good, not the movie. Nothing about the movie is good, just this one twist. And yeah, so they go home in the end with a story, but it's a really awful story with a really awful headline, so fuck this movie. The end.
Thanks, Patreon.
Thanks.
Yeah.
We love you so much.
Well, I don't know if I would say that. I feel like it's very much a hate-love relationship, about 70-30%.
I mean,
but,
once a month it is.
Yeah. To be fair, we do it to ourselves, so we are masochists.
Yes.
So there you go.
This is true.
But that means it is now time for everybody on this show to start earning points by being entertaining, because, Jen, I've just taken away 3 points for a very overly long summary. Sorry.
What? That was like a 3-minute summary.
It was 6 hours, and you're going to edit it down into like 3 minutes, but we get it. So we're going to now go to Trish, who is going to give us her first and only like for this show. So Trish, tell us something that you actually like about Transylvania 65000.
Why did you skip me?
I'm going in my own order because I'm a rebel.
I just love that we like set this order down at the beginning, and then you're like, nah, I'm just gonna go my own way.
It's just that order is only relevant for the start of the show.
Go your own way.
Fine. Okay, I'm so sorry.
It's
I
fine.
bucked
Go
the
ahead,
trend,
Trish.
and
With
oh my
greatest
god, it was
respect
just
to
too much
Trish.
societal change for everybody. So we got to go back to the drawing board and be like, sorry, Trish, gotta set you on the side because Alex just really wants to go now.
Sean,
okay?
you're being a dick and you need to stop. Sorry about that, Trish. I was just confused because the rules got changed in midstream. Please don't let me stop you.
Well, I'm relieved to go first because I watched almost the entire way through the movie before I saw something I liked. And that was tourist Elizabeth, who has poor judgment in going out with Jeff Goldblum's character, and especially poor judgment and then going out with him on a picnic. She does redeem herself at the end by smashing a bottle and threatening the police with it, and, being brave and active, and that was a moment that I could respect for her.
That was the best moment.
Yeah.
And she does get a good line. You want to taste glass?
Yeah, that's a good line. I would agree.
Oh, that was awesome. Because you're right. I mean, she went out not once, but twice with Jeff Goldblum.
But, the first time, I don't even understand why they went out, because before she rebuffed his advances.
With another good line, I might add, where she says, "You seem confident." And he said, yes, I am. And she's like, good. Then the rejection won't hurt as much. And I was like, yes, Elizabeth!
Yeah, I was really happy with that until she ended up going out with him after all.
Well, I remember this was the 80s where basically every plot line that involves a man and a woman is the man being like, hey, baby, and her being like, oh, God, no. And then he gets the girl in the end because sex pests were a major part of 80s culture.
But at least in some of those movies, they have at least some other scenes that explain why attempt to explain why the first jump was made into going on the date. This just goes from, I have no interest in you whatsoever, also your friend is playing with my child and that's fucking creepy, to, yeah, I guess I'll go on a dinner date with you, that's cool, and let me tell you my whole life story. It made no sense. It was just a complete jump from one angle to the other.
Yeah, I mean, basically nothing in this movie made sense.
No.
Well, that's a fair point.
But we're doing likes right now.
Oh, right.
That is true.
Right. Sorry. Forgot about that.
It's a sort of Dadaist representation of reality, so that's how we can draw positive from the fact that it doesn't make any sense.
Fair enough.
Well, I guess then we'll jump to you, Alex.
All right, so I have a sort of meta-like. What I like about this movie is that despite the fact that it was absolutely terrible, it is filled with a bunch of, perhaps not at the time, but ultimately extremely famous actors whose careers it did not actually manage to destroy or hurt, including Jeff Goldblum, who is there as baby Jeff Goldblum, who sounds like grown-up Jeff Goldblum. He just has sort of silkier looking hair. Ed Begley Jr., the guy who plays Kramer in Seinfeld.
Michael Richards.
Yep.
Yeah, and that was only a few years after this, so good job, movie, not destroying his career. And then in Seinfeld, he was actually funny.
And then he ruined his career by being racist.
This is supposed to be
I know. I'm just saying that you're correct, because this movie didn't do it. It was things that had nothing to do with his movies that ended his career.
That's true, and then rightfully so. And then we had Gina Davis, we had Carol Kane.
Best.
Yeah.
And yet somehow not best.
Well, we're going to talk about that.
It's
later.
It's a like.
Right.
Let Alex get the like.
And then I will even just admit, or, mention that as a cameo, Rudy DeLuca was in this movie, who did a lot of work with Mel Brooks and did a lot of writing work with him, and was the guy who was the hired assassin in High Anxiety.
Nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, there's a lot of really good actors in this movie. So the movie doesn't have any excuse, but there's a lot, it was nice to see those faces.
Yes.
I was also interested to see Jeffrey Jones as Mayor Lupescu. He's also the guy who plays the health inspector or whatever it is in Ghostbusters.
So unfortunately.
So is that just his typecast of, jerky officials?
Yeah, Jeffrey Jones is just this great character actor, and I should have mentioned him as well. Like, I don't know how I managed to leave him off the list, because I was like, is that who I think it is? And sure is. And
so
he has been in so many things, and he's great.
So I got excited about that. Yeah.
Until I ruined it for Jen.
And then Sean reminded me that he was charged with child pornography.
He's a convicted sex offender now.
Oh no!
Wow.
I did not know
somehow
that.
missed that one. Well, never mind. Did I
was
say
fairly
that I liked
recent.
him?
Yeah.
I guess I liked his performances, and then he ruined it all for me by being a creep.
Yeah.
So you all can Google it if you want to know about it, but yeah.
I'm okay.
unfortunately-
I will trust you on this one and not have that in my Google history.
So yeah, you don't need that. I was also excited about Jeff Belloni. I don't know if that's actually how you pronounce Belloni, if it's Italian, but he's the one that's played Malacqua and is a great character actor on his own. And then obviously you have Norman Fell, who played Dad, the newspaper owner, and that was nice to see him too. It's a ton, and obviously Ed Begley Jr., who we mentioned previously, but there are a ton of really good actors in this film, and that's why I was hopeful about it at first. And then it just kind of went downhill from there.
Yeah, because it really is. When you look at the cast list, you're like, we've got Jeff Goldblum and Ed Begley Jr. and Carol Kane. How can you put all of those people together and it's a torture cinema worthy movie? And yet. That is exactly what happened. Which, I mean, that, I suppose, shows a great talent of a sort on the part of the director of the film.
Right. They went out and were like, who are the most interesting comedians out there today? Let's hire all of them and put them in a movie and then make it terrible.
Yeah, like, just consider the sheer level of talent required to make Carol Kane be not funny.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that actually requires talent to be that terrible.
It's like they were trying or something. So in a way, maybe that should be a like. It's impressive.
Yeah.
It's a testament to the human spirit. What we can accomplish when we really put our minds to it by making Carol Kane not funny.
Is this like the Ig Nobel? It's just the Ig Hollywood instead. It's like, we're not trying to make good films. We're just trying to make shit films and see what we can get away with.
It might very well be.
To defend the Ig Nobles for just a minute, they all actually do come from legitimate scientific research that just sounds really dumb when you explain it to lay people.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Whereas this movie is just like dumb no matter who you're explaining it to.
That's a fair point, yeah. Well, and again, even the Ig Nobel, like the studies that they refer to may actually turn out to be really important. They just seem on paper to be ridiculous.
Exactly.
So,
and the Ig Nobles, unlike this movie, are funny.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a true fact. Yeah.
They used to do a thing on the Ig Nobles called the 7 and 7s, where they would have like, I don't know, it was like they'd have like 77 seconds to explain their research in like scientific terms, and then they would have to summarize it in a way that people could understand in 7 words. And the best one I ever heard was this guy had done all this study about cats. And then the 7-word summary was, the cat's purr is a melodious snore.
That's almost poetic.
Yes.
I can dig it.
I feel like that needs to be in like a haiku. Is that enough syllables?
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's not related to this podcast, but also
there was a sad lack of cats in this movie.
There is a sad lack of cats. There isn't a single cat. Come to think of it.
All the cats had better agents than Jeff Goldblum.
Right?
Yeah. Well, especially in the 80s, because they had the International Cat Association, which managed cat talent. I mean, you know about this, Alex, right? Because I think we talked about it once before.
Yeah, it's an area of interest for both of us, since we both do love cats.
That's very true. Yeah. We're both technically members. We're voting members. So it's really important industry. So, yeah.
I weep for the world.
I'm sorry, there was nothing else to say about that. That was basically the joke. Just like this movie, a lot of the jokes that I will be telling tonight probably won't be that funny.
Nope.
They just kind of stop.
They just stop. Which is just like this movie. Well, I guess that means we need to go to Jen now. Jen, what is your like?
Yes. So I was initially going to say that my like was the leg joke, which I still loved. I don't know why, but I gotta say that I definitely enjoyed the Michael Richards leg joke. Not just for the initial leg joke, because it's a fake leg joke, and like the initial part of the joke was funny, but then they actually followed it up later with Ed Begley assuming that the real leg is the fake leg, and then like dragging Michael Richards on the ground. So that was good physical comedy. Unfortunately, that was the only good physical comedy, and I think that's why I enjoyed it. But in the end, after desperately trying to stay awake during the rest of this movie, I finally hit on what was actually good, which is what I mentioned earlier in the summary, which is the fact that this entire film is actually, and all of the stupid plot points that are happening, and all of the myriad of monsters that exist within the story, because we have Frankenstein and Dracula, which is Gina Davis, and what else do we have? We have a Swamp Thing, a Wolfman, a Mummy, and is there anything else? And then we have a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde sort of role, but what is aside from the point? Anyway, that the whole thing is basically a corruption issue because the mayor and like the chief inspector are embezzling funds for the local hospital, which is why the doctor, Dr. Malakwa, who of course is a Dr. Jekyll Mr. Hyde character, also happens to be a good person, and he's actually genuinely trying to help people, but he has to keep his expenditures secret and all of the work he's doing secret because he's not necessarily getting funding for it, and so he's like squirreling money away and labs equipment away so that it's not stolen from him by the mayor and the chief inspector guy. And I liked that this inevitably came down to being a story about basically Medicaid fraud. That was cool. Like, if this whole movie had actually done a better job of depicting that reality, it might have been good, but it wasn't. So
No.
It really wasn't. But that was a good twist. It was genuinely a good twist to the nonsensical plot lines that were occurring in this.
Okay, I actually did miss the twist because I fell asleep.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear about it.
Right.
Not
It's a
enough that
pretty
I'm
big
going
twist.
to go and look at it again.
No, definitely not worth going and looking at again, but like when he does the big reveal to the town, they're actually revealing like the medical conditions that all of the different quote unquote monsters have that he's been treating in order to help them, and they had gotten kicked out of the hospital by the system essentially because of the quote unquote sort of Medicaid fraud that was occurring. So that was neat.
Yeah, so like one guy was in a horrible accident. I think two of them were in different types of accidents, and so one of them had to have like very substantial cosmetic surgery, and the other was like had to be pieced back together. And one person got that disease where you or condition where you grow hair continuously, the
Wolfman.
very rare one. Yeah.
So he was giving him, electrolysis. Yeah.
And I love when he lifts his shirt up. He's got the one little bald patch, and he's like, "I can go to the beach now." And I'm like,
that's adorable. Yeah. So that was interesting.
yeah, it's an interesting twist, and I think it is probably one of the thematically most interesting things about the film.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate that it does such a piss poor job of setting it up. Because it is, the idea behind it is great, because this whole town is like turned against these people because they've been convinced by the mayor and the chief of police that they're actual monsters and they need to be killed and murdered. And it's sort of like a little bit of a commentary about sort of mob justice, right? And where people are just sort of
that
like
whole
being manipulated
end scene
into, yeah.
was actually really good. The whole reveal scene with Ed Begley, like, mooing
Oh,
the
where
mob.
he's like putting hats on and he's
Yeah.
trying to pretend to be a woman and all of this stuff.
Right,
Yeah.
and he's essentially inciting the mob to his side, and unfortunately he screws it up right at the end, but, like, that whole, like, sort of study in mob dynamics was really cool, and the study just in how society treats people who are different from themselves. So, like, it had a number of different elements in that reveal that, unfortunately, had literally never been touched on in the rest of the movie. Like, if they had maybe done that with, is it Ruda? Ruda's character. Radu. If they had maybe done that with Radu's character, like, show how he'd been othered by the rest of the town, even though it turned out he was faking his hump the whole time. I don't know what the hell that was about.
The kid, their son, was much hunched over.
No, literally all three of them were faking the hunch. Apparently.
Oh, were they all?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
It was like, what was that? But that could have been interesting if he had actually had like a physical, disability, that was somehow cured by the doctor. And like that was part of it, but he'd been treated differently his whole life. But they never established that in the rest of the movie, which was just like, oh, okay, then cool.
It's just his like subservient thing that he does. We're like supposed to connect dots that are missing so that we understand that part of why he is so submissive as a person, and then there's an irony because he hates submissive people, is because of that. But it doesn't establish those connecting pieces. And so in the end, it tries to pull it all together, but we're sort of like going, but like you're missing like 9 little steps here to get there.
At least 9 steps.
But it was amusing to me at the end when the was either the chief of police or the mayor is like, look at this kid, it's all messed up and he's like an abomination. Do you want him in your town? And everyone is looking like, whoa, wait a minute, like it's just like a little kid, dude. Like he's like literally 8 years old and he just like walks funny. Like there wasn't anything wrong with the kid, by the way. He was just I guess decided to bend over when he walked a lot. But like, that's kind of, like, really low. Like, that was the moment where it's like, okay, like, these people are just, like, straight up evil. Like, they just, like, went after his kid, like, for no reason. There's nothing wrong with the kid. The kid's literally fine. But they're just looking for any excuse. We gotta, like, any sort of abnormality must be turned into evil.
Yeah, exactly. That was a good study.
It's a great thing where we're, like, getting so much more out of it by talking about what the message is, even though the film does a shit job of getting to that message.
Shit job. So
real shit.
Ugh, could have been a contender.
Well, I guess that's my turn now, yeah?
Yes, it is.
So, for the most part, I did not enjoy this movie, as anyone who is at the Discord chat, which you can get to on the Patreon page, so join up, you all will know that I did not enjoy it, but I will say there were a couple of moments when I actually had a full-on belly laugh, which I could only say happened once with Stan Helsing. It at least happened twice in this film, where I straight up cracked up. One of them was the one we've already mentioned, which is when she's like, you want to taste glass, and I just cracked up. That made me giggle so much. But the other was at the beginning of the film. Jeff Goldblum and Begley's character are all sitting in the office with the editor-in-chief, and he's yelling at them to go find this story, and Jeff Goldblum, because he's a real hard shit journalist or whatever, is like, nah, I'm not gonna do it, and then Begley's like, well, I'll do it, and all this stuff. But there's this moment at the end of it where he basically gives them the ultimatum, you have to go do it or you're fired, and then Begley goes, but I'm your son, and the editor-in-chief says, prove it! And I cracked up so much at that bit because it was so like really mean to say to your own son that I got a little bit of a belly chuckle. So there were a couple moments in this film where I just flat out thought it was hilarious, and a lot of moments when it just I just kind of wish they had skipped a bit more. But yeah, so that's my like. It's not very exciting, but if you are inclined, it is on Amazon Prime for free, and you can just watch the first 10 minutes and then stop. And then you'll get your belly chuckle, like I did, and you'll be happier.
But I got a belly chuckle about a joke later when Jeff Goldblum is talking to Ed Begley about how he doesn't even know how to be a real journalist, because at one point his dad, because they're basically like tabloid journalists, like listicles, and the dad gave him the project of doing 5 people that look like their pets. And he said, and it was like, instead of like, you didn't find any people that looked like their pets. You just found 5 people that looked like animals and then gave them pets. And I was like, this is exactly what tabloids do. And I loved that sort of glimpse into it. And it was just hilarious. So
yeah.
there
are like a handful of moments that are I would argue are actually pretty funny. I think it's hard to enjoy them because it is surrounded by so much not funny shit. Like, jokes that go on for like 47 hours. Like, they just never end. And it's like, it wasn't funny the first 15 times you were trying to tell this joke. We can move on now. But when it is funny, it has this, like, these really good moments. So I realize Jen and I are probably the only ones that think that, but, you know.
I just like
pretty much
dumb comedy, so, you know.
I was gonna note, I have been known to like real dumb comedy, and this one was a little too dumb for me.
Okay.
There was the one place where I laughed, which is Ed Begley Jr. hanging off a wall. And that was because it was extremely good physical comedy, and he played it really well.
Yes.
Yes, I agree with that moment.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess it is time for us to flip the script because we got to go now to the dislikes, which I think is what we've all been waiting for with our lives. So everybody got 3 points from the last round, so you're welcome for your 3 points. Good job, folks.
Woohoo!
Are we like, whose line is this anyway? Or
No, the points actually matter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This determines who actually survives in the Hunger Games. So, so just so you know, you actually want to get points, because if you don't have any points, you for sure are probably getting hit by like a landmine or like mutant bees, or possibly you'll just end up in a Michael Richards stand-up comedy act.
Oh.
No, really, like, I'm just bored. I just want to give points. Just let me give points. Why can't I do it? Can I just have points?
Okay, give us points.
Do what you gotta do.
Can we do like a season, and then at the end of the season we have, and then it's like the House Cup? Because, you know.
Who has what's left? Yeah, sure. Yeah. So for challenging the system, Alex, I give you 2 points. Good job.
Excellent.
Well, anyway, on to dislikes, and I'm going to go to Alex first. Alex, what is your one and only dislike?
I mean, I don't want to just reiterate the fact that they made Carol Kane unfunny, but that's basically the thing in the movie that offended me the absolute most. I mean, y'all, this is the first torture cinema movie that's ever put me to sleep.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I have survived through many a movie where I wished I could fall asleep, like Babylon AD. But it was too interesting. This movie was so boring that despite the fact that the TV was up pretty darn loud, and I generally have a hard time falling asleep when there's a lot of noise, I fell asleep. Which is why I didn't know about the twist at the end, because I slept through that and then woke up in enough time to see, like, the thing with the bottle and, you know, eat some glass or whatever.
Can I ask a question about this sleepiness?
Sure.
When you woke up, did you realize that you had missed something, or did you not realize time had passed?
I realized the time had passed
Okay.
because there was a definite shift in the scenes. I did not realize how much time had passed.
Okay, so you are what I would say level 4 sleeping through film. Jen has been to level 5.
Yeah.
Where Jen has fallen asleep, woken up at a different point, and didn't realize that she had fallen asleep because there would, like, just didn't have a recognition that any time had passed.
There was no discernible difference in the film.
Yeah, exactly. So you got to level 4, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, especially for our first attempt.
Yeah.
I mean, I will also just note my least favorite scene in the movie. I mean, obviously the dislike is it was so fucking boring I actually fell asleep, and that has never happened to me before. It was like, just like, I don't know, my brain just shut down. Like, I couldn't handle it anymore. And I'd even been trying to, like, you know, pay attention to my phone and read Twitter to stay awake, and my brain was just like, oh, no, we're done. This is just too stupid. Why are you here? Must be sleep time. Done. But, like, I just want to call out the first scene when they get to the hotel, and you get Loopy and her husband, so Loopy is the one played by Carol Kane, in the kitchen, having some kind of dialogue that I think was supposed to be funny.
Who knows?
But it was basically like someone had taken some ketamine and then just done like a free association exercise in Final Draft.
So, Was it Adam, our Patreon, that said, or was it Paul that said that this was basically, or was it you, Sean? Maybe it was. I don't know who said it. Someone said this was basically like an SNL, like a series of SNL sketches that had been rejected.
It was either Loopy or Paul. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah,
who.
and I was like, that's fair. That's a fair assessment of this film. None of them were successful sketches. Keep in mind.
No, because even when it's good, eventually it ruins itself.
Yeah, and and even some of the most random stuff, like the part where Kramer shows up in the closet riding like a little coin-operated, like, I think that was supposed to be funny, but again, it was more like ketamine plus free association exercise, or like, I was sitting there going, have we drifted into the realm of performance art? Like, what is he trying to say?
I mean, it's not funny in the movie, but when you talk about it outside of the movie, it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
like,
it was so
imagine
beyond
Michael
absurd.
Richards on a fucking coin-operated toy, like, animal. Like, it's just ridiculous.
In a closet.
In a closet.
That's the important part, is that, like, he just appears out of nowhere.
Yeah,
in a
appears
closet.
out of nowhere in a closet, and Ed Begley Jr. is like, what the fuck? And he's just like, I'm meditating.
It's so much funnier when you explain it. It's way
is.
funnier. You would have made this movie hilarious.
I mean, I don't know, maybe it's one of those movies that just needed somebody, like, doing, you know, like a very sort of, like, put on the glasses and doing a sort of very serious, like, you know, artist voice about, and now we reach the point where the coin-operated horse is actually the worker, the proletariat in the capitalist system.
I would have, I will admit it, a little bit of, like, intellectual comedy might have been really good here.
A little bit of comedy would have been good!
Yeah, right?
Yeah, 2 points to you for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're doing really well. I'm proud of you.
Are you going to give us cookies later?
I live in another state, Jen.
Then ship them to us!
Okay, sure. I'll ship you cookies, but I'm gonna send it by snail mail so that they will be rotten when they arrive. Except to Alex, who will get very fresh, perfect cookies.
You mean actual snails?
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's how you send cookies, by snail mail. My mom does it every year, and they show up in tins, and they're delightful.
No, Jen is right.
How else would
Actual
you send
snails.
cookies?
I'm gonna have 80 snails with little ropes attached to them, drag a package of cookies across America.
I would like to ship this package escargot. I made a pun and I'm so ashamed of myself!
Oh no, 8 points to you for that. Oh, that's beautiful. Great
well
moment.
done.
So, alright, well I guess we gotta switch over to Trish now. Trish, what is your dislike?
Well, we've already talked about the lack of humor a great deal, but I'll just take a particular area I really hate, where it's not just that the joke falls flat, but the joke is somebody's joke falling flat, and they rub it in, and rub it in, and rub it in. And it's just, no, that's not clever, that's not funny, those writers should be ashamed of themselves. It's a waste of our time, our lives, and it's not humor! Do better!
It's definitely in the realm of, it's bad and they should feel bad.
Yes, it's bad and they should feel bad about what they did. Basically, all the Michael Richards jokes where he is trying to make a joke and he's not funny at it. And we all know before he starts that he's not going to be funny, but they do it anyway.
Except the leg joke.
Even that's not that funny. I'm gonna be honest, I
so
didn't
dumb.
get it. I was like, oh yeah, he's doing a leg thing. Oh.
I know it should have been awful, and yet I just bust up when that happened. So
No, but Trish, you're right. I mean, his entire purpose in this film is to constantly go, it's funny, right? It's funny. And I guess the joke is that he's a quote-unquote foreigner, and so he doesn't understand humor from an American perspective, and that's supposed to be funny.
Right.
But it's not. It comes off as Well, I think it was I'll just say it this way. They were worried about having Michael Richards cast for this role of Phajos because apparently he was too crass. So that's a fun fact.
Huh.
Okay.
He won them over apparently by just like doing his slippy bit that he does what I think Jen was talking about, where he pulls the leg out and he like slips and falls. Apparently that's how he won them over, is he just
Oh no, it was probably
fell.
the banana. The banana
Oh,
fall.
the banana bit?
Yeah, that has a particular name, and he is very good at that fall, but
That was real creepy, just the way that scene was.
it was
Because he's
super
like chasing him
creepy.
around.
Yeah, like, do the fall! You're like, oh god, man, chill.
It's very strange, because, like, it might have been interesting if they had, in the end, we find out that his character the whole time is, like, a famous physical comedy actor, and he has spent, like, a decade of in obscurity living in Transylvania, trying desperately to get other people to understand physical comedy, but, like, nobody does. But I guess he's just supposed to be a weird foreigner, and that's like that's to me isn't funny, but I guess in the 80s they thought that shit was hilarious, so.
Yeah, I mean, to me it came across as this guy has watched American comedy and he loves it and he's trying to imitate it, but he does really badly at it, and we're supposed to laugh at him for it, and I don't like that kind of making fun of people humor, and I don't like jokes that don't work, and I don't like a combination of them.
You don't like a combination of terrible comedy things.
That's right. And doing it over and over and over again.
Which this film definitely does. You would have not enjoyed Stan Helsing.
Probably not.
No, you would have hated that.
No one enjoyed Stan Helsing.
Nobody did. Yeah, fair point, Alex, yeah. Well, okay, well 2 points to you, Trish. I don't even get a thank you? Like,
thank you, Sean.
totally unappreciated today. Alright.
Thank you, Master.
No, don't do that.
Oh my god, I was taking a gulp of beer and I almost spit it all over my screen. Thank you, Trish, for that.
No, no one ever should call me Master. Oh, that makes me feel
just
so
stop
gross.
talking about it. Now I'm grossed out.
2 more points for you, Trish. Good job. So, alright, well, we'll jump to you, Jen.
I'm honestly not even sure where to start. Like, this...
Start with the dislike you hate the most? I mean, that seems
honestly, I don't know what I hated the most about this movie. Was it the trans joke at the end? Probably. Actually, that was really, really, really freaking awful.
Okay. Can I just jump on with you on that then?
Were you gonna do that one as your dislike?
Mine's related to the amount of effort we went in to understand what that joke was.
It was awful. It was offensive. Like, but at the same time, like, there's a lot going on throughout this movie that is, like, particularly 80s offensive. That one was probably the worst, though, in the whole film. And to give everybody context, there is a mummy character in this, that one of the monsters. And at the end, her name is, like, Hattie, and she's called Hattie the Ugly or something like that. And Dr. Malakwa gave her full plastic surgery, reconstructive surgery, and that's the reason she was wrapped in bandages. She needed a high oxygen environment to, like, help her healing, blah, 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 which is why she was in a coffin, like, stupid jokes there. But then she's revealed to be gorgeous, and she's super excited about having boobs. But throughout this scene, she's referred to as she, so that's good, at least. But then at the end, there's this headline that's, what was it?
Like Transylvestite, I think is the phrasing. Which would have been an 80s terminology of how it's not a term we use today because it's offensive. But
right.
In the 80s, that might have been a term that was a little bit more commonly used. But it's like a joke, like, Transylvestite, see, haha, funny.
But the sub-headline is, Mummy revealed to be a daddy.
Oh, God.
And so this is the thing. Like, I feel like we're just tag teaming on this one, Jed, because...
That's fine. Like, let's go for it.
When I saw it, I was like, wait, did they just do a trans joke?
Right.
And, like, maybe the joke was, like, it wasn't a trans joke. Maybe this whole time we were supposed to think that this was a trans person. It's actually supposed to be a positive message. because maybe, person comes out as trans, and so, like, this was the headline, and it's sensational, but it's meant to be more positive, but I was like, but probably not. And so I was like, wait, so was this character always trans, or were like, at any point were they, like, because this is the 80s, and so, like, the degree to which 80s comedy would have been aware of, like, the dynamics of gender and all of these things. Like, maybe they might have referred to her as him and then been like, like, transferred, blah, 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 or whatever. But I didn't know. So Jen went back and rewatched the scenes trying to see, did they refer to her as him or something? And then, like, there had been, like, an obvious moment of, like, the town recognized that they had a sort of dead name prior, and then they became a trans person or something, right? Whatever, right? But no, this whole film, like, the joke is just like, haha, see, it's like, it's Transylvania, but it's you get the idea. And I got so mad about the idea that we had to, like, spend time figuring out what the fucking joke was. Because if it had just been, like, a stupid trans joke, like, it would have been offensive, but it would have been, like, you know, like, it's fucking 80s. Like, of course they would have had some bullshit, like, like, look, it's a drag queen or some bullshit joke, right? Which would have been offensive, and it would have just probably been a throwaway. But, like, they wanted this to, like, be, like, a thing, like, a really important defining moment for this character. And the amount of effort we had to go to figure out what the fucking joke was supposed to be made me angry. I really got mad.
I was just angry about the joke. I didn't mind that I had to, like, check on things. I knew it was an offensive joke about transgender people. And that was, enough for me. Like, the weird, obviously, the conflict, I don't know what the word is, confusing the two terms transvestites with, stupid me. Okay.
Yeah.
Fucking
I know
word.
What you mean. Yeah, confusing the
words,
terminology.
The terminology of transvestite versus transgender in the first place.
Yeah.
Offensive, right?
Yeah, like, I mean, I will note that that's a really 80s thing.
It is
an 80s
super
thing,
80s thing, and
I mean that's basically, like, it's
every
fairly
movie.
Recent that transgender has gotten into common use,
right?
And then before then it was like transvestites
getting
really conflated with transsexuals.
Yeah, and that's why I was really concerned when they first came up, because I was like, what was the joke for this? What were they joking about? Because for me, I was like, maybe there was that, like, in the back of my head, I kept thinking maybe this is the joke where it's like, oh, it's actually, like, it's a joke and it's a little offensive, but, like, they're trying for a positive image and they just fucking failed it. And in that case, I'd be like, oh, okay, well, like, it's still offensive, but, like, it's the 80s, and so, like, I'll just fucking move on. But it made me so mad that, like, they clearly were going for, like, the lowest hanging fruit they possibly could on that joke.
They were going for the really bad pun.
Right.
And it failed, but then they followed it up with the sub headline. And that, like, the sub headline was the part that just made me go, I am going to jump through a time warp and strangle whoever made those headlines.
Yeah.
Like, wow, you're an asshole. And I'm not sure because there was no point to it. There wasn't even context to the joke. It was literally just about throwing that pun in there. And I think, and that was really annoying. I'm like, for the rest, this movie is terrible on basically all counts. As Alex said, like, I don't know, turning Carol Kane into a bad actress somehow. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, how do you do that? I am with Alex, and I'm still angry about that. But, like, that joke at the end was just like, okay, you guys just fucking pissed me off. Thanks.
They undercut everything about that twist ending that is a little bit positive by doing that. They should have just left it as, like, just made it be like a supermodel joke, like super hot supermodel from Transylvania, like, goes and does some nifty thing or whatever. Like, I don't know, just something that wasn't about like a
mummy
like a gender
turns out
thing.
to be hottie or something.
Yeah, something stupid like that, and just left it as that instead of gone for that low-hanging fruit of, like, let's just undercut this admittedly very poorly made character's story, right? It really, because almost none of the others get that. Like, they get jokes, but their jokes are not really about, like, there's something wrong with you because you did something to change yourself, right? Like the Wolfman joke isn't about like oh, hairy dude like also has fleas. Like that's not the joke.
That would have been funny.
that would have been funny. Yeah, but anyway, you get the idea. Sorry, Trish, you were saying something?
Well, I was going to say that I don't think we're supposed to like or respect the tabloid headlines because it is, after all, a sensationalist, literally, tabloid. So maybe that alleviates it slightly, but I don't know. And, it would have been better left undone, unsaid.
But isn't Jeff Goldblum's character a hard shit journalist? He tells us all the time how hard shit he is about journalism.
Yeah, but the tabloid he works for, he's just making some money while he, tries to get to a better paper.
No, you're totally right. Yeah.
But that didn't help for me because at least some of the other headlines were kind of funny. They were slightly amusing. That one, it was like full stop. Okay, they're just assholes. And then let's move on. That was a big problem for me right at the end of the film after arduously sitting through a terrible, terrible movie. So
you poor thing. Well, Jen, you get 4 points for being on the same page as B, which is always very important. And Trish, you get 2 points for attempting to rationalize what I'm sure even you would admit was a catastrophic failure on all fronts in terms of the realm of comedy. So,
I mean, there are a lot of movies and TV shows where I yell about how horrible the journalism is, but, it wasn't even worth it in this one.
Fair point. So, and Alex, also you get 1 point for giving us 80s context.
You're welcome, citizen.
All right, well, I guess we've done it, which means it's now time to give our final thoughts and our grades for this monstrosity of a film. And so, Alex, we turn to you to give us your final thought and grade.
Okay, so my final thought is that this movie was incredibly boring. It was less funny than Stan Helsing, which is an accomplishment. I mean, I think it was also, except for the joke that you guys were talking about, it is actually mostly less intentionally offensive than Stan Helsing, which, I guess counts for something, but on the, it's Stan Helsing was a offensive movie trying to be offensive and no one was surprised. But this is the first torture cinema movie that's ever actually made me fall asleep. And
that's gotta count for something. I mean, you didn't have to suffer through as much of it.
Yeah, in a way you can look at it very positively. Like, say, if I ever need to knock myself out again, maybe I should just pay $3 and rent it again. But, in that sense, it was not, the worst I've ever seen by a long shot. It didn't actively make me angry. I was mostly just really, really bored to the point of unconsciousness. So, I think I'm just going to end up giving it the same thing that Stan Helsing got, which is a really unenthusiastic D.
That's fair.
That's a very fair grade, Alex. Well, perfect. We will turn it then to Trish. What about you?
Yeah, it didn't really make me angry. It made me resentful, but not really wanting to reach through the screen and punch somebody. But nobody should waste their time on it, really. So, but it doesn't seem quite bad enough for a D-, so I'll give it a D.
All right, fair. All right, then on to you, Jen.
I'm actually going to be a little bit more generous because, I don't know, it's not even bad enough to really be a D. It's just maybe a D+ because it's just bad. But, as we've kind of said, for the most part, it's a very benign bad. I can't even get up the effort to, really say much more than that. Blah. It's a film that somehow turned a bunch of really good actors into bad people for being in this movie. But I don't have the energy to hate it more than that, really. So, D+.
All right. Well, then it comes to me. And I will say that even though Jen and I did have a little bit of a rant about something, compared it to some of the other stuff we've watched that's been offensive, It's pretty mild in a lot of respects, because most of the stuff that we found annoying was sort of silent stuff, and it's whatever. It is boring film. Alex is correct. I didn't really enjoy it. I will not watch it again. But is it the worst film that I think I have ever watched? No. And I did get a couple chuckles, so I would give it a D+ as well.
Woohoo!
Yeah. But don't take that to mean that I actually enjoyed this movie, because
no.
compared to Mac and Me, this is an absolute travesty, so.
That's a really weird scale, Sean.
I mean, honestly, to be fair to Mac and Me made me laugh more than this movie did.
Good. Well, perfect. So, thanks everybody at Patreon for selecting this film. As always, if you want to be involved in voting for the films we do for Torture Cinema, you can go to patreon.com/SkiffyandFanty and join up. You can also go to our Discord live chats where usually me and sometimes a couple of other people hang out with whoever wants to watch the film with us. And we babble. And so that really comes to the end of this. We're done, guys. We've done it.
We have done this.
We are free of this.
Thank goodness. Last thought. Enjoy the song by Glenn Miller.
Yes.
Because luckily it only has a brief appearance in this movie. Thank goodness.
Yeah. Go listen to the Glenn Miller song. Do not listen to the theme song of the movie, which doesn't make any sense and is grammatically incoherent.
And watch the merry melody.
Yes.
And that. Well, perfect. So you can find us at skiffyandfanty.com, send us messages, skiffyandfanty@gmail.com, or at Twitter, at skiffyandfanty. We got a newsletter at skiffyandfanty.com/skiffyandfanty. We've got a booktube thing at youtube.com/skiffyandfanty. There's a lot of skiffy and fanties to things. If you just type website.com/skiffyandfanty, probably we have something there. I don't really know. So thanks to my lovely host ninjas for joining us for this, even though you had to watch this particular film. I really appreciate you being here.
Love you.
Yep, so 1 point to all of you.
Hugs all around.
It's wonderful.
I got a point.
And on that note, I need to go to the bathroom, so we're going to end this episode right here. So awkward ending and scene.
Thanks for sharing, citizen.
If you would like to support this show, you can go to patreon.com/skiffyandfanty or find us on Twitter at skiffyandfanty, our webpage skiffyandfanty.com, or you can even send us an email at skiffyandfanty@gmail.com. The intro music for this podcast was taken from Rock Thing by Creo. You can find out more about their music on freemusicarchive.org.